Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting week of DevToberFest 2025. This is week three of ABAP Mondays, and we have four interesting sessions lined up. We'll start the day with what's new in RESTful application programming model, presented by our very own Andre Fisher, who is our SAP champion and a product manager at BTP ABAP Platform Management. Good morning, Andre, and welcome to DevToberFest. And now over to you.
Yeah, morning, Gina. Yeah, welcome everybody. So I would like to show you what's new in RAP. So what have we added to the RAP framework in the last year? So the agenda is about talking about a new from scratch generator. So that's a new generator within ADT, which allows you to generate from scratch, including tables, a complete RAPIO, even several levels. Then we have a look at collaborative draft. That's a long-awaited feature that allows two or more people to work on the same draft instance. And also the draft scope is something. This is where you can now have a draft state that spans several RAP business objects. We will then continue with the background processing framework. The abbreviation is bgPF. That's a wrapper around the bgRFC, which is available in the ABAP environments, and as of 2023, also in SAP S/4HANA. And here we have added queuing and retry, so that will become available on-prem with 2025. We will continue with side effects for events. That's a feature that allows us to update the UI when an asynchronous process starts, and if then the data is updated, the user will be notified about this. Then maybe a short look at the graphical modeler. So in SAP Build, so that's one of the parts where you will see this tighter integration between SAP Build tools and the ABAP platform. And last not least, the analytical table. That's something that will be available in a few weeks when we start with 25.11. Let's start with the from scratch generator. The from scratch generator in AD, if you look at it in ADT, we have the option to create a complete RAPIO, including the persistency tables. So we can have several, let's say layouts, not layouts, but implementation types. It could be either read-only, with transactional, with draft, or without draft. The key layout of the tables that are being generated is always UUID based. And as you can see here on the right-hand side, the generator supports AI with Joule, and it supports what I call DEDIC import, you know where I'm coming from, SEGW. So it allows us, it's called here template. Existing objects can be used as a template, either tables, structures, or CDS views. And it's possible to add also business entities manually. So you press a button there, add entity, and then you get a dialog where you enter the alias, you enter if it's on a deeper stage, like here, we add a sub-item, and then we have to specify the parent entity and the cardinality which is used. And all the necessary fields will be generated as well. And then we can work on item level and either maybe change existing items that we have just imported, or we can create everything from scratch. Let's have a look at it, how this works. And I'm here in a 2508 system, and I I'm right-clicking here on that package, and I choose Generate ABAP Repository Objects. And that will start a wizard. So we will start here with the generator from scratch. And we can press Next. And the package that I've right-clicked on is automatically selected. So now we are here with these entities. Let's make them a little bit larger. So we can add, let's say, a suffix, for example, 05, the project name, that's sales order. Though I know we have already a cool sales order app, so that's, since I'm not from the application side, I oversimplify this. We can add now an entity. Let's say call it sales order. That's our root entity. And we can choose a template name, ZDMO. And then I should have a structure. Let me check. I forgot to look it up. What were the structures? That's the 02. So that's the sales order. And then we see that all the fields are being added automatically. For that entity based on that structure. So then we could have now Joule. So add an entity called item using the structure setDMO. Be fine, so I forgot to write this down. Okay, we accept this, and then we get a sub. Starts not from scratch because I entered here the wrong name. I could have it now, leave it as it is, and choose this. And here, since I'm in that local, I'm not asked for a transport request anymore. And this will now generate a RAPPO here. See, it starts now generating, and we can now continue and later on look how it is working. Next is the collaborative draft. So what is the collaborative draft? So what we have now is the option that multiple users can work here on the same draft instance. You see it here. If somebody enters here on the left-hand side, is then changing the focus, you will see that on the right-hand side, the data is automatically updated. So it's similar like in Teams where two people can work on the same Word document. It's now possible that two people can work on the same draft instance. So we can see it here. The collaborative draft demo. I will later on post these examples in GitHub. Okay, you see here in the background, the generator has finished and it finishes with a pop-up. It asks us to show this. Okay, we are switching back to our sales order app that we have just generated. Unfortunately, not the publish button is not pressed, so this you still have to do manually. And yeah, we will wait for that. We see that something is then published, and we can then use that two-dimensional or the RAPIO with two entities there. Let's see. We'll switch back to that. I'm now here back to my my RAPIO. So here I'm open this. And I'm creating something new. Add some nodes, an order ID. And in the meantime, I go back here. I open a second session. I use a different browser now to be safe, to be another user. And was the wrong one. So we open now the second session. Remember, I entered in the other session RRR. So we will open this now. And we see that here, that I'm Andre, I'm working in this screen, and I'm entering here a total price. You see this here on the left-hand side, it's automatically updated, and we see that both are working here. Yeah, and we can now create this. Okay, I get a warning that Andre Fischer is currently editing. Yep, I will just save everything. And that here, that the user Anzeiger has saved the document. Okay, let's continue. I will not continue. We just have a just short look what needs to be implemented for that. First of all, any existing draft-enabled RAP-BO, you don't have really to change the implementation. It's just more configuration. We need additional repository objects, a draft query view, and a DCL, the data control based on the data control language, an access control object. That's needed because right now we don't support. We just support tables for draft tables. In the future, this will change when we will have the option to have view entities, table entities for draft objects. Then we can add a DCL directly to them. Then there is no need for that. Behavior definitions have to be changed. So if we look in the behavior definition, it's instead of with draft, we will see with collaborative draft. The draft table has. For the draft table, we have to specify the draft query view, and there is a new action within the behavior definition draft action share. On the production layer, we have to specify that we use the collaborative draft, similar as we had used draft, and this action has to be published as well. So these are the new objects. So the draft query view based on the draft table, that's easy to create, and we have to add this additional role that would then inherit the conditions from the R view, basically. Draft scope is something where we have an exclusive draft, the option now to have an exclusive draft. So on the left-hand side, you see what you have already. So you have a root entity and a child entity. And if you create a draft, all the child and grandchild elements are locked as well. In the if we have a root entity, customer entity, and a sales order, for example, we can have a draft-enabled association, and that means if the customer is edited, all the sales orders of that dependent object would be locked as well. And if we create a customer, maybe alongside with draft, with sales orders, and we are still in draft, and we just delete the draft, then the draft of the customer, then all the sales orders that have been created alongside with that will be deleted as well. Okay. And what do we have here on the implementation side? So that's the draft scope. So here we have several business objects. So we have here new stuff like add cross associations, and on the customer, that would here be the leading object. We have associations that point to the sales order. That is which is our dependent one. Coming now to a new feature which is available with background processing framework. Not sure whether everybody knows what background processing framework is. I already showed this a while ago when I gave a presentation about the reuse services. So bgPF, that's in short, can be used within RAP. And bgPF is nothing more than a wrapper around the bgRFC. It's a good old known technology. However, bgRFC is very complicated to configure. bgPF now is quite easy. It's automatically configured in the ABAP environment, so you can just call it as a developer. And in older 2023 systems, you have to create an appropriate RFC destination. And how does it work? So if you have you create operations, so you register more or less classes that have an execute method which contains the business logic, and they can be registered for execution. And if a commit work is triggered by the RAP framework, which happens if you save the data, then these objects will be run in a separate session, and they have been registered for that. And so far, we allowed a registration here like this. So you had here a get default, that's the default queue. You created this object here, and then you saved it finally for execution. And you could do this either in a transactional-based secure session or in a transaction uncontrolled. Transaction uncontrolled means you were able to run code that allows for a commit work. And yeah, that was how it worked so far. And what we now have, it's the option to have a queued processing. So it's the exactly once in order quality of service that is allowed here, which is supported here. And the factory class has now a new method, get for queue, and it takes now two parameters, and one is a new background processing context object that has to be created for that, because we had to avoid name clashes. And that could happen if this queue name, which is just a string, is sent. And in order to make it unique, you have to use that queue name together with that processing context. And together, this is then a unique value. And in addition, we have the option to support retries here. So there can be a delay time can be set in seconds, and then the framework tries to retry everything. So we have it here. No, it takes too long. No. Okay, their system seems to have a hiccup here. So what you would then see usually, so you can monitor the process in bgPF in an app, so that allows you to monitor the bgRFC queues. Here you're able to stop and start destinations, and you would see the number of retries that have been done and the status here. So if a process has execution errors, and this unit is then blocked because this has execution errors, and if you resolve these errors and you would then restart the queue, you would see now here that this unit is executed and the others will then be executed again. So as well, so if the refresh, you would see that then the whole process is then working again. You will find this information also in the documentation that explains then how to implement this automatic retry feature. Side effects for events. So that's also something that can be nicely used together with bgPF, because if you have an asynchronous process, that's fine. You can start it and you run something in the background. However, the problem is what happens to your UI. And again, we can start here an application. And this application simulates an app that creates sales orders. And for the sales order, after you've created it, there would be a button with an action that would then allow you to start a longer running process. We create this now. Say we select a customer. We add an item here. So we see everything is created nicely. Now we have created a sales order. And what we would then like to do is I want to create a PDF. And let's see that maybe takes longer. My UI is automatically refreshed. And then we just have to wait. And you see, I've done nothing. So new data is available. And the UI has been automatically updated. And I would now be able to open that PDF. So that's, by the way, also a demo for this reuse service of the Adobe service that is available. yeah, so how does it work? In the behavior definition, there are new statements. So we define an event, which is called status updated for side effects. And in the side effects, we list this event so that this event an event status updated affects fields. Here, in that case, even for a sub-entity. And in the save modified method of an additional or an unmanaged save, we find out that an update has taken place, and then the structure, which is based on that event, is filled here in that case based on the update sales order. That means this sales order ID, and then we raise that event, and because we raise the event, the side effect is started, and that would then refresh the UI. Last thing is the graphical modeler. So that would allow you to, this allows you to start to build RAP-based applications. So the first step in sub build. So there will be a hands-on session in TechEd for that. And it allows you to model the CDS model and start the generation of the RAP objects that belong to that, that are being created based on the modeling. And yeah, that's for the greenfield approach where nothing exists so far. And how does it work? So you are in the storyboard of Business Application Studio or sub-build, and there you can open the graphical modeler, and you have here built a model based on on a root entity and a child entity. You model also the projection and the services, and you can even do so then for the UI, and that's where everything comes together. And if you press the generate button, based on this modeling, appropriate objects are being generated. And if you go into the graphical modeler, we see it here that that we can add, for example, associations or additional entities, and have some details here on the right-hand side where we can do some editing. Last but not least, how much time do I have, Gina?
We have 30 more minutes, Andre.
Sorry?
Yeah.
How long?
And we have 30 more minutes. In that, we can also take up some questions. There are some questions in the chat also. Yeah.
So this modeler, I can maybe quickly show that. It would generate, as I said here, it would generate objects, but what you would still have to create manually would here be these this behavior definition. So that's something you would have to add. So what is being generated is here the read-only stuff. So the CDS views, metadata extensions, and up to the business service. Service definition, service binding, that would be generated by the generator. What you would then have to fill to add is the behavior definition, and you would then, but this as usual with all the generators, you would have to add the implementation, right? So that this is something that has to be added here as well. Okay, last not least would now be the analytical stuff. So what is this? A grouping of data that worked already. So if we have a UI here and choose something group by distribution channel, then we would have this here on the left-hand side, a group somehow. But what's now possible with 2511, we can display sums of group data. So what is important here is that you you can now set appropriate annotations in the projection layer. So I first show how it looks like if it is not there. We see some data now. And finally, we would see some, when I switch on here the grouping, we see here the distribution channel B2B. Later on, we will see something else here, B2C. And what I will do now is I will switch on this new annotations. This allows us now to have analytical features alongside with our transactional-based application, so that you can now have something which is immediately when you update something, you see some effects, for example, right? We see now there's already the sum and all for the two distribution channels. So all the others. Yeah. And if we would have a more complex data model, we could add here subsums as well. So that will be available now with 25.11. So that would be then with the November upgrade. So this is again what I did. So I added this association apply supported for aggregation and this aggregation default sum. Yeah, stay tuned. We will have more stuff about ABAP Cloud in other sessions at the Oktoberfest and at SAP TechEd. Okay, then have a look at the chat. Is there anything?
Do you want me to read it for you, Andre, if that
Yeah.
helps?
Or yeah.
Okay, so we have one question which is already answered, and the second question is, can you give an example of a business case where collaborative draft is relevant?
Yeah, I guess it's yeah, where you want to talk to a colleague, right? So you have to, let's say you are working on something which is yeah, you have created something and you don't want to press the save button, or another colleague should take over parts of it, and only after 2 or maybe 3 colleagues have worked on that object, we want to save that. So that's something that has been requested, yeah, since already a while, because so far we just had this exclusive lock, and it would even allow somebody to take over, right? Think about this: oh, that you see something which is locked by somebody else, right? And that would now be possible with this shared draft or a collaborative draft, better say. The other user could just take over and press the save button, for example.
All right, so the next question is, how can you monitor the queue's request which couldn't process properly?
Sorry, what?
How can you monitor the queue's request which couldn't process properly?
Yeah, as I already said, there is there is an app for that. One moment, I think I'm logged in here. Where is my? Let's go to that. So in this administrative Fiori Launchpad, there is an app that allows us to monitor this. That's this normal queue. And this shows now that this queue is executable, but if we would have now other queues that we have then defined as I showed, then we would see them here as well, and potentially errors.
Okay, thanks, Andre. So moving on to the next question. Is the collaborative draft feature currently on the roadmap for the wrap generator? And if so, what is the planned timeline?
That I would have to check with your colleagues, and I hope, yes, I would see this as my opinion, as a feature that should be just, you should just have to click on, and that you then just have this as an option, so that you don't have to type these additional stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we'll keep you posted about the release dates, or we'll get to know in the future sessions. And the next question is, hello RAP team, are there any plans to release core functionality to combine draft-enabled BOs? I saw signs of such projection BDEF statements and samples in system, but seems officially not documented yet.
You mean this? Yeah, it could be that the documentation is should be there. So I checked this a few weeks back. So if not, it should become available quite early, and I will post this here as an example, and so you can take it from there. So yes, it is part. It will become part of the documentation of 2511.
Okay, great. Okay, Andre, the next question is, we are unable to officially, okay, I think it's from the same person, a continuation of what he was asking in the previous question. Maybe such feature is in process. We were able to unofficially combine non-draft BOs and CDS projection entries, such way create reuse wrap BOs. I think you have already answered that. It will be part of documentation soon. So I think that
Non-draft, I'm not sure what the question. Okay, maybe I would have to see this myself. So
yeah, so the request is would be great to have such combination feature of dependent BOs.
yeah, we have it with different BOs, but they have to be draft enabled for sure, right?
Mhm.
Now I see it here. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, this question is from Attila, and there are 3 questions. I mean, it's a continuation of the first one.
Yeah, so this is yeah, so quite different answers. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, maybe we can draft the answer later on and post it in the comment section as well, Andre. So in case you get to know about.
They should post questions later on in the community where it belongs, and not just here. So we can try to answer here stuff, but as soon as this closes, we are unable to answer additional questions here.
Yeah. There's an option to post the questions in the comment section, and we can later on come back and answer the comments. So that way also is possible in case people are watching the replays. That's also possible. Yeah. And Andre, the next question is how to start graphical modeler.
The graphical modeler
Then,
is one moment. The graphical modeler is started from SAP Build. You start here from the one moment. So I'm here in the lobby, and I can create a new project. It's type application, a full stack application, and then there is this new option of full stack SAP Business Application Studio. You then have to here something to a system. One moment, there is one one small bug which will be fixed, right? Because I will have here to create a package. So this will be fixed soon, but right now that won't work. So as a workaround in the hands-on for TechEd, we will also pre-create the packages. Okay, packages there. So we will now find this. Press next. We have now to provide a name here for the project in Business Application Studio. And we have to specify a season file name, and that's technically the repository object in ABAP, where everything is started, right? I create a new dev space and create, and this will now take a while because, okay, good. I've played around too much. That's for one, it's okay. Maybe just take an existing one. Let's look here what the dev space manager tells us. How it should work. In the meantime, okay, maybe we can have a look at other questions in the
Yeah,
meantime.
maybe we can take up one more question, Andre, because we are at the top of the hour. So I'll just pick one randomly. Hi, Andre, while using collaboration in the object page, edit button is getting disabled. Can you tell the reason for that?
Edit button is disabled. Where's the question?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The one there. No, 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 a little bit above. From Udaya Kumar. Yeah, the last question now, whatever you are seeing on the screen. Uday Kumar, hi, Andre. While using collaboration in the object page, edit button is getting disabled. Yeah, you can search with U. There is an icon U right next to the name. Yeah, exactly that question.
I see it now, so I can't answer this now. So it's
Okay, no issues, Andre. I think we are at the top of the
okay.
hour, and I can send you the remaining questions from the chat, and we can post the answers on the comments for the same session. And whoever is watching the replay, please post the questions in the comment section of the YouTube video or in the SAP community page where you are seeing the events. We'll try our best to get back to you as soon as possible with the answers. So once again, Andre, thank you for the wonderful session, and thanks everyone for participating in this session. See you all in the next DevToberFest session soon. Thank you and have a good day. Bye.